Hey, what's up, everybody? Jeremy here, and guys, I'm very excited for the conversation today because it is very rare. I get to chat with another Jersey guy, which I get to today. We have Eric Estevez with us, and he is doing some incredible things, including in the past, he has actually built a team that's helped to produce $100 million in revenue, and he's become a top 1% earner at his firm. So, Eric, thanks for hanging out with me today, man.
No, thanks for having me. I look forward to having this conversation with you, Jeremy.
So I got to know, man, like that growth has been really quick, and you've very quickly become a top producer in the mortgage and real estate industry. So for you, what do you attribute that rapid rise to?
Well, I think it may, relatively speaking, it may be considered a rapid rise. But Jeremy, you and I both know it takes a lot of years of hard work and gathering experiences to learn from. So I think one of the things that helped me is prior to the mortgage industry, I led large teams, and I worked in Fortune 50 companies, and I grinded it out, and I learned how to build teams and leverage people, right, to reach a common goal. So, I was lucky that I joined this industry along with my father, who's been doing this for a long time. But my father, unlike me, was a one-man team, right? It was a one-man show, and there's only a certain amount of growth that you can gain from being a solopreneur. So should you call it that? And I got my experience from building teams and really being good in operations and being able to leverage technology and information to just attach to from what my father learned and taught me, so we can get a much deeper reach much faster.
So let me ask you that, because I feel like that's a really good place to start, because it is a massive barrier for a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business owners. And I guess from that perspective, there's kind of two questions in that, Eric. Number one, how do you get past that barrier of thinking like, hey, I have to be the kind of chief cook and bottle washer here. I have to do everything. Because I know for me, my first 2 years in business, it took me a long time to get over that. Yeah. We have a team almost 20 now, but for me, it took me a long time to get over that. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is, as well, what have you seen, like, once you get past that, like, how have you kind of built a team efficiently? So let's start with, how do you get past the, I can't hire people, I need to hire people?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think you have to trust that you're not perfect, and obviously you have some level of success with your own failures and by leveraging your strengths. But in the end, right, building any large team or corporation requires a lot of really talented individuals, and you have to put some trust in it, right? So obviously, as long as you hire people with integrity and good work ethic, right, that's what matters, because they're going to develop and grow on their own as well, right? Even though you as a leader are going to try to help lead them to the water. So, I realized very quickly in my prior life that, I can work X amount of hours in a day, but there's only 24 hours in a day, right? And the only way that I'm able to achieve goals is to make sure that I have a team that have the same, vision, right, as I do, so we can work towards it. And they also have to make sure that there's room for growth on their end. So it's very important to say I got to take a step back. I just had a call with a team that I'm trying to help with right before we jumped on here, and the same thing. She's developing her own team after being a solo agent for 13 years, and we talk about giving up some of those reins so you can now step back, use your experience to teach others, so you can reach new heights.
And I think that's really hard too, because you look at it and you're like, oh, well, maybe I'm the best at this or I'm the best at that, and frankly, sometimes 80% of your skill level with somebody else in an area actually in the long run can turn out being better because it's 100% of their attention.
I think perfectly said.
So from that perspective, when you look at yourself, what would you say are the most important character traits to really grow and achieve success? Like when you're looking at that.
Yeah, I think being genuine, and leading with integrity. I think that when the people you hire see that you want them to be successful and it's not just all about me, 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 I think you're going to gain that loyalty, right? And especially in different fields, right? You have people that are solopreneurs that are they can go and hang their license with a lot of different banks or real estate offices. So there has to
Hmm.
be a value proposition, right? There has to be a mutually beneficial relationship. And I think when you generally care about somebody and you know what their goals are, and by knowing who they are, and there's a psychology to it too, right?
Yeah.
By knowing what they want, you help them achieve them, or be able to provide them with some skill sets that they didn't have before, that they're going to be indebted to you for a while, right? So I think it's important to understand who you're working with, and it has to be two-way street, right? And
Hmm.
I never saw myself as a boss, right? Meaning where you got to do what I say. This is something that we're growing a business together, right?
Hmm.
I always make my team feel that way.
How do so I guess in action, how do you do that? Because I think that can be one of those things that's easier said than done.
Yeah.
And I guess from that perspective, like, obviously you can't say where you've done it everywhere, but like, can you give me an example of like what implementation of that would look like that you would kind of like make people feel like you're in it together?
Yeah, I think one, for example, when I started this business 5 years ago, and it was just myself and my father in a small office, right? And we were just saying, okay, what does the next 2 years look like, 5 years look like? And I realized very quickly that in order for me to get to the next level, I had to hire an assistant, because I had to have somebody to to help me with the minutia of the business while I go out and do the things that I'm good at, connecting with people,
Hmm.
educating people, right? Building those relationships, which is key in any business that you're building. And the great thing is that this person that we hired, this administrative assistant, so you will, she grew along with us. So
Mm.
she went from an assistant to a senior assistant to a processor, and she's nearly tripled her income. So when we have the foundation of our team grow within, it's easier for us to recruit other people and say, wow, this person did it, and this is what we believe in. We put our money where the mouth is. So that helped us grow, because now anybody that joins our team sees this person has grown their income and has been with this team from the beginning, and we pay it back, right? So I think that foundation, that culture is so key.
That's an excellent point too, because I think like when you're building a team, like you want to have people say like, yeah, not just do I want to be a part of this team, but like that's what I could do, right? And I think that's something that people really struggle with when building a team is showing people like what is that example, right? Because of what you put into other people is what you're going to get out of the people you bring on board.
100%.
So let me ask you this, Eric. Like, when you're building a business, when you're growing a business, I think a lot of times people focus on being perfect, right? They focus on like everything has to be perfect. And a lot of times that is the biggest enemy to action, right? Getting things done.
Yeah.
Dude, I've made so many freaking mistakes. I don't know about you. And I feel like I've learned so much from those mistakes. When you look at that,
Yeah.
what mistakes have you learned the most from?
Yeah, you know what? I have a saying, and I say this all the time: done is better than perfect, right?
Yeah.
And I've kind of grew my business that way, where
We had to get a copywriter, by the way, that checks my emails for that reason because I'm like, "Brr, brr, brr," and it doesn't sound like I speak English half the time.
yeah, right. But you know what? I think you learn more by doing, right, than by sitting
Hmm.
back and having analysis paralysis. You know,
Yeah.
and you learn through those mistakes. Those failures is what makes us successful in the end. When you look at all these celebrity thought leaders, right, and these business owners that we listen to in podcasts and whatnot, right? They all failed a million times before they succeeded, and I think that they weren't afraid to fail. So I think just really going out there and one of the things, for example, creating video content, right? I speak to so many people all the time that still to this day, feel uncomfortable with creating video content. and educating it because they don't like the way they sound, or that they don't like the way they look. And I hate the way I sound, and I hate the way I look most of the time. But the fact of the matter is that I just put information out there, and that helps my business because they look at me as an educator, right? So
Hmm.
I think, I figured that out relatively early. I wish I would have figured it out earlier because I think I would have gotten to a level of success much faster. But I thought about things too much, right? I wrote down plans of this is what I'm going to do in 30 days and 60 days. Why can't we do it now, right?
Hmm.
Why can't we develop a new habit or activity now, do for 30 days, create a habit of it, you look at the ROI of that activity. So, I think sometimes waiting too long to do something, or I'm going to do this in 2 months. No, just why can't you do it today, right? So just go.
Yeah.
You're going to learn from it. You're going to continue to make it better until you see what works for you, and now you can go ahead and pick up a new activity.
Best way to handle work, man, is do it now. I think that's a really, really big item. And I like that you mentioned the point on education as well, because I think when I looked at it, and I sat down with my team the beginning of this year, I said, hey guys, if we want to go where we want to go, 2022 is going to have to be the year of education for us. And I think brands that are getting it are talking about what you just said. They're understanding, like, you're not just building a company anymore, you're also building an education company, because the customer is different now with the way the internet is. The customer is very different. They don't come to you for all the information. They come to you, have all their information, and decide if they're going to make a decision before they talk to you. So, like, that education portion is really important, man.
Yeah, I think it's so key, right? Especially now, especially in our industry, right? There's a, you look at the media, and they're all about clickbait, and it's all about fear mongering, right?
Yeah.
And what happens is, when I look at the clientele that's out there, there's a fear, right? Recession is looming, and is it a good time to buy a house, for example, in my industry? The top percent producers in this industry see it as an opportunity, because now they're going to be the advisor that is going to close that gap. They're going to say, this is what the perception is, this is what you're being told, and this is the reality of the matter. And I think when we present ourselves as advisors and educators, we make people feel more comfortable, and thus we allow people to trust us more, right? As an
Yeah.
advisor. So I think that education is really the way, and if you're building any business, because that's a free way of giving value to people, right?
Hmm.
And that's why I'm, alluding back to the video content. I try to put out information about what's going on in the market. I'm gaining more and more business from social media. I've closed a couple deals from TikTok, Jeremy. Right?
Oh, wow.
I jumped on the TikTok bandwagon.
Were you dancing in those videos, man? Were they dances?
Many are not dancing, but I have danced. I do have two teenagers, so they teach me a few tricks. But yeah, I've gained some good traction from TikTok, and it's a great platform. And I think that it's about just really putting information out there and allowing people to say, this person looks approachable, they look like they know what they're talking about. So you can then have that conversation, educate them, and start building those relationships to grow your business in the long term.
And that's so important, man, because I feel like there's this, I don't know how to explain it, this kind of barrier for a lot of people. Like, oh, I can't tell people everything, because if they do, they're not going to need me, right? And it's like, no, they need to know you, like you, and trust you, so they know you're the right one. I think that's what's important with educational content.
Yeah, I think I don't hold back. In the end, you know what? Even if you're afraid about competition, or if you're afraid for them to bring them in, because you want to be like, okay, I don't want to share my secrets. I think that's BS. I think when people know that you're giving to them genuinely, most people, even if it's your competitors, right? If they're not in the right mindset or frame of mind, they're not gonna do what you tell them anyway, because there's blueprints out there, right? And I got to where I got to relatively quickly because I was a copycat of success, right?
Mm-hmm.
I put my own little flavor into it. I was able to adapt the new technology a little bit more than some people that have been doing this for a lot longer, because a lot of times people don't like to reinvent themselves. But in the end, right, there's a blueprint, right? You have to go ahead and look at what has worked in the past, look at the people that are doing great in whatever industry you're in, and just copy that formula. And I think that most people won't. So I share and I overshare, right, sometimes, but I just know that, I want people to be like, this person is not going to hold back. This person is going to give me value.
And I guess from that perspective, then you talk about like copying what works, but you also talk about like standing out from your competitors. And I guess, when you're looking at that, there's a really great book I read. It's called Brand Intervention by David Breyer. And he talks about the idea of like differentiating from your competition? I know that's something you're big on as well. And I guess when you're looking at it, how do you actually differentiate from your competition? Because when you don't, you kind of remind people of everybody else that does just what you do. So for you, how do you differentiate?
You know what? That's a great question. Going back to TikTok and these videos, right? And in our industry, especially, in the mortgage industry, it was stuffy, right?
Yeah.
Finances is not the sexiest part of the business, right?
It's the most necessary though, or you don't get that house, man.
Agreed, right? And I think you have to know what you're talking about. But when I felt confident, right, in the beginning, I was, you're always not confident. You have to kind of fake it till you make it. But now you have some deals and you're learning and you're growing, you're getting better. I started being a goofball, right? Like I started, obviously giving good content, but then I started using TikTok as a platform to just be funny and just integrate, real estate with comedy and listen, who doesn't love to laugh? I think that's a universal language is laughter, right? So right now when I go around New Jersey, everybody that sees me, I have a little bit of notoriety. I'm on Spanish channel television every Sunday morning, and last year I had 50 billboards all across New Jersey. But the number one thing that people say when they see me is, "Oh man, your videos are hilarious. Your TikTok is hilarious." And it breaks the barrier, right? And this person said, they say this person has a sense of humor. I feel comfortable doing that because I know that we're about our business and we have a good process and we know what we're doing. So I'm able to just be a little bit more of myself, right? And be true to who I am. And it allows me to enjoy this business a little bit more, right? Because I don't have to act right like someone else in order to gain business. This is who I am. This is my family, and I make fun of my family all the time, and they crucify me sometimes for it, right? But I look at how the situations that are happening in the house, whether it's laundry, whether it's whatever the case may be, and people can relate, and I think that relatability has allowed my business to grow with a lot of people.
What's interesting too, Eric, is like I feel like that's actually the first kind of I don't know the correct term for this. I know with TV they call it breaking the fourth wall, right? Like how you're making somebody feel like they're part of it. But
Yep.
like when you're looking at it here, you're kind of like handling that first step to building a relationship with somebody,
Yep.
right? Like because that you're kind of getting rid of that like social veneer in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to say it. Absolutely. I think one of the cool things is that I leverage technology. Like I mentioned, I have virtual assistants that do certain things, and I have assistants that call realtors in different states, right? As I'm building business, and the cool thing is that now there's some familiarity that people know who I am, especially in New Jersey. Oh, I've heard of you. I've seen your billboard, or I've seen your TikToks, right? And it's cool because now it creates more of a warm introduction instead of a cold call, right?
Yes.
And it allows me to get to the point much faster. It allows us to just really feel each other out and do a little dance to see if this is something that can work down the road. So I think that having a little bit of vulnerability, really also helps when you're trying to build some business.
So let me ask you this then, Eric. Like, what's your next big goal, man? Like what are you trying to do next?
Oh man, you know what? Great question. I've been doing this for 5 years, and I'm always gonna be tied to this industry. I fell in love with it. I started in the industry because I started investing in real estate passively, and then I started doing my own flips, and then I said, okay, well, what else am I gonna do? And I decided to start working in the mortgage industry. But I can use the same formula, I feel like, and build other businesses, right? Without losing sight of what's got me to this point. And the cool thing is, and this podcast, is the title of it is Command Your Brand, and I think you can really control your brand, and I really think you can control your time in your life. And this is what I teach a lot of people now: is you can control your time, and I love this business because I can do more business with spending less time because of the platforms and the systems and the teams that we've created. So I can duplicate that. So I have started a virtual assistant company, staffing and training agency, just because over the years, as I've grown and I'm talking to loan originators across the country, and I'm part of a coaching platform, 2020 Vision for Success, an amazing platform, which they're using me now to teach other loan originators. This is a big question that they ask me is, hey, how do you get a virtual assistant? And the same thing when I'm touching base with realtors and top producers, we talk about that as well. So I said, you know what? I've been doing it for a few years. When I start my own company, I can provide value in other ways as well. and monetize from it, right? And then one of the things that I'm really excited about, and this is completely left field, right? Is I'm managing my daughter's music career, right? So my
Oh,
daughter,
nice.
19 years old, up and coming, recording artist, has 6 singles out on all platforms. We just signed a 5-song production deal with an independent label as we're continuing to developing her as an artist. And it's a completely different industry, but you can use the same, you know, I guess frame, right, in building that business. It's about learning, right? It's always about always learning, making mistakes, connecting with people. And I think I'm able to put that into being a manager. And I ordered 5 books, and every morning when I'm at the gym, I'm listening to music podcasts, and I'm just being immersed in this world. And we've been able to make, a headway over the last year, and we feel that we'll be able to market her to some major labels within the next year or so, just because I'm able to apply and use some of the things that I've done in the mortgage industry, right? I have virtual assistants helping managing her social media, right? I have virtual assistants reaching out to booking agents across the country to try to book her at festivals. So the same thing that I did in the mortgage industry, I'm just repurposing the scripts and learning and applying it to her, because music, right, obviously, you have to have talent, you have to have the hunger for it, right?
Yeah.
It's a business, and most people fail in the music industry because they don't treat it as such, right?
Hmm.
And
I couldn't agree with you more. I've had so many musicians on. Like I had Don Felder on, who was one of the original members of the Eagles, the band,
wow.
and he was talking about like that's where everybody fails, man. They're just an artist first. He goes, you got to be a business person first and an artist second, right? Like, because you got to stay creative, but you can't get screwed because they'll have you sign stuff you don't understand.
Correct.
You
Yeah.
know?
I listen right now. I'm in the team building mode, just like I was when I started my career in mortgages. So it's about, okay, who's going to be my, when I signed this 5-song production deal, it's about, okay, I need an attorney. Who's going to be my attorney? And I interviewed a couple of attorneys, and now we got one out in California, so we can be bi-coastal, right?
Hmm.
And getting some really good feedback from the contract that we signed, right, to make sure that we own our own masters, and then it's not a 360 deal and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
It's about really building the team, and that's what we're doing right now, right? We're working with some Grammy award-winning engineers and producers. So it's just building the team and having the right system around her, because I believe in her and she's talented enough. But without the right system in place and without the right people in place, it's only going to go
Yeah.
far.
That's such a vital point. If anybody out there is a musician hearing this, like you have to own your own stuff because these whether it's CAA or like one of these other companies, like they own everything and you have nothing as an artist. So you have to kind of keep your house in order, man. Absolutely. Eric, this has been exciting, dude. For people watching this, if they want to learn more about what you're doing and connect with you, man, where's gonna be the best place for them to go?
Man, they can go to Instagram, the Eric Estevez. They can go to my website, ericestevezthelender.com. I think those are the easiest way. Reach out to me. I'm very accessible. And yeah, I look forward to connecting with people and providing value in any which way I can.
Awesome. Eric Estevez, thank you so much for hanging out with me today, man.
Thank you, Jeremy, for having me. It's been a pleasure.